We acknowledge the First Nations people as the traditional custodians of this land, waters, and culture. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. We are recording this podcast on the land of the Boonwurrung and the Wurrungingi people of the Kulin Nation. Always was, always will be.
Amy, have you stirred the shift today?
Yes, in a way, Rosemary. Earlier this morning in the Evolve program, I had our second guest speaker, who was Honey Atkinson, an amazing photographer. And why I say that is stirring the shift is I always thought I had to do everything myself with my mentoring programs. You know, people expect me to do everything. I need to be there for them 100% of the time. And I do want to be there for them, definitely. But I just thought, well, bring in other people that have expertise that I don't have. And it's going to give so much more value to you guys. You get this special learning and knowledge from these people. And so I suppose it's about thinking outside the box and just not thinking that I have to do it all. And actually me not doing it all will make it better. And so it's just learning a different way of thinking about this and evolving my thinking on it. So that's my little bit of shift stirring.
I love that shift. And our audience might wonder, why stir the shift? Well, if they've ever wanted to make a change in their life, if you're thinking about shifting your career or following a new passion, you're in the right place. We interview people who've made big life transitions, and while we don't have all the answers, their stories might spark something in you. Let's get curious about what's possible. I'm Rosemary Patterson.
And I'm Michelle Benson.
And we are the Shift Stirrers.
It's a good start.
Amy, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. Michelle and I met because we're in one of your programs, the Daring Artist programs, and we'll hear more about that as we move on. But can we start with, can you tell us a bit about what you do, the Daring Artist and being a ceramic artist as well?
Yeah, well, I'm so excited to be on this podcast with you two and that you've created. I think it's amazing. And thank you so much for inviting me to be one of your first guests. I'm a ceramic artist and I've been working with clay for about 25 years. And I make sculptural ceramics and mainly share that through exhibitions. And then, I run the Daring Artist, what would you call it? Experience mentorship business for the past, I started it in late 2018. And really it is to help artists make exceptional work and have it seen and recognized. And as you know from being involved, I work with all sorts of different makers, not just ceramic makers, but all sorts of visual artists from different parts of the world, mainly Australia, but at all different stages of their career. And I really, really love doing the work.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I'm looking at your website now and I love your work. And I know that you talk about materials and material transformation. So can you tell our listeners what that means in practice?
When I was at university, I studied there it was a long time ago. And, when you're studying, you get exposed to lots of different techniques and ways of working. And I sort of came across one that was making up my own ceramic materials. So basically, it's just like mixing clay, which can be quite static, with glaze, which can be more fluid, and then building with that. And that was just really exciting for me to create something of my own and work with that. And then in the transformation process, it came out wildly different. So I would sort of set up this scenario, which was sort of very measured, and then it would go in there. And because of the nature of the material, it would soften or move, and as if like the wind had just gone like this. And I could never do that myself. And so I loved that I could set it up, but then I could hand it over. And I just love that, even though, of course, it would fail a lot of the time. But I just love that, working that way. And that's sort of the way I've worked since then, for the last, 20 years since then.
Yes, that is beautiful. I know a musician who describes her art as, I knew it was only a matter of time before my instrument and I would choose each other. So that's sort of what you've done with your ceramics, isn't it?
Rosemary, I think it somehow chose me, because I was thinking about when I first started, and I don't know why I signed up for like a wheel throwing course in my local community centre. Something must have just been speaking to me. And I didn't like it at first. I didn't fall in love with it straight away. It was so bloody frustrating. But after a while, I got into it, and I'm sure you can connect with this too, Michelle, working with clay, is I thought I could make a cylinder. And then the next thing is I could make a bowl. I could put a handle on it. I could glaze it. Then it changes its state. I can use it. Just like this whole world opened up to me that was like never ending. And it got me in its grips. And so I think something was sort of indicating to me to go down that path. And then I embraced it as it sort of spoke to me more and more. Yeah.
I love the name, The Daring Artists. Can you talk us through your programs?
Yeah. So I just named it the Daring Artist this year. It was sort of just under my name, Amy Kennedy Mentoring, etc. But the programs first started with the International Artist Program, which isn't such a common thing that I offer anymore, but it was specifically around artist residencies because I had done some great international artist residencies early on. And I'll just veer to my big sister. She has a big part in this too, is she's huge in business and speaking and leadership and writing and all sorts of stuff. And she'd always be knocking on my shoulder, Amy, you could do something with your artist. You could put something together. And I was like, no, I'm not you. I can't do this. I don't have those skills. But one day she said, well, what about you help artists with their artist residency applications? And for the first time, it made sense to me. And I thought I could help people because I have this experience and I would want to help them and I could give them a much better chance. So that was where it started, Rosemary. And then it evolved into Evolve, which is a longer program that looks at developing the work and the professional practice. And it morphed into Fresh Eyes, which is a writing program for visual artists. And then this year into Make Exceptional Work, which just solely focuses on the work itself. So sort of just like been a bit of a rolling thing that as things happen or as the need is there from the artist, it's created. So it's been quite fluid and unplanned.
And I love that, and so much flexibility in that. And I think you have talked about coming out of uni and being, where's the structure? And can you talk about how you've brought that structure in for some of us who miss it?
Yeah, well, I think that's why I do this work. I didn't know this at the start, but the saying, you teach the thing you most need to learn. And so, yeah, I had amazing structure at university, so inspiring and contained. And then I moved out of that and I felt a little bit adrift around that. And so I worked my way towards getting some more structure, being more self-disciplined. Artist residencies played a big part in giving me that sort of structure and that community. And so, yeah, I didn't really think I'd be sort of doing that when I started the first program, but that's what has happened. And I think a lot of makers need that, whether they come out of studies or whether they're fully self-trained. This sort of structure, community, accountability, sounding boards with others is crucial. Yeah.
Well, everyone in the community just loves your work. So I'll pass on now to Michelle to talk about your own journey.
I'd just like to comment on something you said at the beginning there, Amy, which is what I call the dance of the clay, as when you put it in under those hot temperatures, especially porcelain, it does its own little dance. And every time, the joy of actually opening the kiln up and getting something out, I don't think it fades. I really don't. Your path towards becoming a professional ceramic artist, how did you manage that path from university to where you are now?
I didn't even set a path. I really would have followed. So that path was, I always wanted to keep learning. So from when I was at the community centre, my teacher there, Helen Sparrow, said, you should go to TAFE. Did 2 years full time there mostly with Sue McFarlane and Shane Kent. And they said, you need to continue, you need to go to uni. So I went to uni and had it 3 years there. And then my teachers there were like, well, what about artist residencies? So it's like always I loved it, but it was sort of the outside support of others that kept me moving to the next thing. So that was up until a few years out of uni, I was doing different artist residencies. And then I fell into, everything sort of just happens, doesn't it? You don't expect it to. And I was on an exhibitions committee with Ceramics Victoria, which was the ceramics body of Victoria at the time. It's no longer there. And one of the exhibitions we had at Skepsy Gallery, which was on Swanston Street in Melbourne. And I went in and helped a little bit as being part of the exhibitions committee and struck up a relationship with the director there, Anna Mars, and her usual person who set up exhibitions and helped her set up and take down exhibitions was going to be away. And she said, "Oh, Amy, would you help me with this setup?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." And so that was like the start of a relationship that still continues to this day. And so that had a huge impact on the path, Michelle, of showing with her, like I show my work with her. She's been a huge supporter, and then working with her. So working on both sides of the spectrum. Then just saying yes to opportunities, even when opportunities were a little bit scary. Going out and being, for instance, I did not like public speaking at all. I'm a bit different now, but I hated it. It was quite a fearful experience. But my lecturers would say, "Could you come back to uni and talk to the group?" And you couldn't say no. And so I think doing those things that were really hard really helped me on the path, like keep moving along.
That's really interesting. I also know from our pre-discussions with you that you don't want to put pressure on your artwork to pay the bills. So what led you to that decision?
I think it sort of just came naturally with the manner in which I work. As I sort of described it before, it's risky, it's slow. I can't be guaranteed on the output that's going to come. And so it just seemed like a natural thing for me that it wouldn't be something that would pay all my bills. And for my personality too, I couldn't take that pressure. And so I took that pressure off. Now, further along in my career, I want to have more of that income coming in from my ceramics now that, things are sort of stabilized a bit and have more of that. So I think I'm just a big believer in doing what works for you, whether it is you go full time into your practice, whether it is you do jobs on the side, whatever it is to work out what works for your needs and your personality and where you're at in your practice, because it's always sort of changing.
Yeah. And I'm sort of going to combine the next two questions together because I want to ask you about how you now, because you're a very busy lady. I mean, you're looking after, I think it's 40 or 50 students at the moment, and it's continual for you. And you also talk about being professional and the attitude of being committed to that professional attitude. How do you sustain your own practice whilst doing everything that you do, which I think is brilliant, by the way.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think the last few years have been quite a few years of transition. I've moved from Melbourne to far south coast of New South Wales. And in that time, I joined the local pottery group to use their premises for a while in their kilns. And then for about a year and a half, I worked out of my friend's studio up the road here, using her studio and her kilns. But it's definitely been a bit of a patch the last few years where I haven't been making a hell of a lot. And it's sort of come in spurts and starts and spurts. So this has sort of been the nature of my career. I'll have intense times making, and then it might be a bit more sparse. And I'll do an artist residency, have an intense time. And so as I'm moving into 2026, I'm going to be making some changes around that because I want more time in the studio because you guys are always in the studio. And I'm like, I want to be in the studio making stuff. And so it's gonna, and I think the great benefit of, running my own ship is that I can, tweak things and maneuver things. So yeah, next year, because I'm working towards 2 exhibitions next year, more time in the studio, but I don't want to beat myself up about it because I'm growing the daring artist and I want it to be something really fantastic and valuable for makers. And that takes a lot of time. So it's a bit of a downtime for that making, but I'm coming back into it with a vengeance.
That's fantastic. I know that as an artist, when you can't get into the studio, you're continually going, oh, I need to be in the studio. And you got these ideas, they're all bubbling away. So yeah, I can imagine exactly how you're feeling right now. You must be, I know, and not taking away from what you do, but you must be counting the days to when you actually can give yourself that time.
Yeah, well, I've just nearly finished setting up a studio space here. And yeah, the ideas are coming thick and fast. And so I'm just like, taking the photos or jotting down the notes, sketching it out. And so I feel like it's really like, ramping up now that I've got my own space.
So one of the things you talk about a lot to us in that mentoring field is a voice. What does developing a strong voice mean to an artist? A lot of people talk about find your voice. I mean, to me, it's finding passion, but what is it to you?
Yeah, I think passion has a lot to do with it. It's like that thing that you really want to spend time with. and
Mhm.
you spend a lot of time with it. We had Preventables come and talk to the group a few weeks ago, and it was like really sticking with something and working on it and practicing it skill-wise to get really good at it. So it's a hard question to answer, but I think the voice is about it. It's really yours. You've made it in a way that is unique and original to you. Whether you're making a mug that so many other people make, it's your mug, and you're rigorous with your approach to it. You're looking at all the angles of it, making sure it's all working well, and you're finding you're just like diving in deeper and deeper and finding your own way with it. And you can see it, it's probably easier to see in other people's work than describe it with words, but you see it when people have it very a very strong voice. And I think it is staying with something that you hold a lot of passion with and taking it to the potential that it can be.
Yeah, well, that's a really good answer. And I think that being in your zone, what I call being in your zone, is a part of that. I know that because you've actually said to me, Michelle, your work is very fluid. You need to watch your edges. You need to make sure of your edges. And as I've grown as an artist, I find myself like transfixed. Like when I'm doing because I don't really trim my ceramic pieces. I more clean them with sponges and all that sort of thing. And I'm getting more delicate and trimming. And when I'm doing it, I'm in this zone. So I get what you're saying. I'm going to go on to reality versus the myth. And the main question there is, what's the biggest misconception people have about becoming a professional artist?
Yeah, there were two I was thinking of. I think one of the big ones I see in my work, Michelle, is people think they have to have the degree, the bachelor, the master's to be any good, to be recognized or to be taken seriously. And it's just not the case because, as you know, I work with many people. Some people have masters and some are working on their PhDs, and other people are completely self-trained. And I don't really see a correlation between one is making better work than the other. It's really about what you put into it and how you direct it and how you improve it continually and how you improve your thinking around it and your seeing around it. So I was about to say if anyone's listening to this, all the people that are bloody listening to this, yeah, lots of people. I'm going to share this. I'm going to share this to all the people listening to this. If you don't have formal study qualifications, don't worry about it. Do not worry about it. You need to take control of your learning and improving, but you can make as good as work as anyone who has all the bells and whistles of formal qualifications. That's one of the others. And I think the other one that we sort of touched on is you have to be working at your art full time to be the real deal. And I think that's a myth too.
I think it's a myth. And I know I was just yesterday editing our interview with Adam Ferrenti from the Rose Street Markets. And he was saying that most people can't afford to be a full-time artist. So it's so true. People have to juggle to actually do this. I think you've actually answered that next question about the traditional myth being, quit your job and make art full time. It's not always possible. And also people quit their job and they do all that and then they get a mind block and they can't do anything anyway. So, I think that it's about the flow, which is what you're talking about. So that's lovely. Rosemary, I'm handing back to you because I've nattered on. So your
Nice
turn.
nattering, by the way. By the way, I'm standing because I've got my sit-stand desk and I like to stand doing podcasts. So it's like, what am I doing? I'm moving on from one foot to the other. So we're on to building a sustainable creative life. And I think we've talked about income and the daring artist. But I thought our listeners might be interested in any advice about making money alongside doing your art. Some might teach, I guess. And I think you did an interview with a beautiful artist who had an online learning program in how to do a tiny part. So that's a money-making way. But can you talk some more about, for listeners who are wanting to, they don't have a corporate job that they can quit, but they want to do their art and somehow make a bit of money?
First I would work out how much money do you want? How much money do you need?
Yes.
And as a starting point, and then look at where your money is coming in from at the moment, your already existing income streams, see where you're at. And if you need more, brainstorm around what you could do using your existing skill set or the people that you know, your connections. Some of my jobs have been non-art related. I run my own cleaning business early on, cleaning houses. I worked at the video shop. I did office jobs. And then as I went along, they became a bit more art related at the gallery or helping people catalog collections and working in art office environments, that sort of thing. And so we need to work out, like, is it important that it's in the arts? Does that lift us up? Or is it okay that it's completely separate and we have that separation? It's so dependent on where the person is in their life, what they want and need, the skills that they have, the type of work that suits them. But just think broadly around it, because sometimes we get into this thing, I can only do this because I only do accounting. I can only do this. But think broadly around it, brainstorm, and work out a way that you could create like a really beautiful life doing your art and doing some other things that still lift you up.
There's so much detail in that. Thank you for that. Let's talk about professionalism. So very early on, I heard of your being such a professional with your art and all the work you do with the mentor program. There's a document to fill in before every one-on-one. 8 o'clock, you're starting the Zoom. Everything about you is professional and high quality. Could you talk about what the key elements are for professional attitude toward art making as well?
So there's like two different areas, isn't there, Rosemary? Like the art making and this mentoring work that I do. And
Yeah.
so just with the mentoring work, as I want people to know that I'm consistent, professional, regular, you can count on me. I'm going to show up on time. We're going to finish on time mostly. Sometimes we go a little bit over and all of that. And like I'm a stable force that's got your back. And with the art making in terms of professional, it's really showing up in your studio, like doing what you say you're going to do to yourself. And I totally
Yes.
waver on this still, or especially because I've been at the time of transition. But also being professional is really delivering what people ask for you and making their life easier, giving them the images 2 weeks even before that they need them, making sure you're representing your work really well in images and words online, and also taking the opportunities. Like if someone asks you to speak, like you're doing a speech soon, Rosemary, you say yes. If someone asks you to do the artist talk, you say yes, even if you're shaking in your boots. Then you're looked at in a different way. And then bring people together. This is another thing that I was thinking about too. Like you brought an exhibition together, you two, with Dana, Anna, and Amy recently. Like you created an exhibition from others that other people come and see. And that's another level of professionalism, I think, too. When you can bring people together, you're a connector.
It's awesome. And for our listeners, you'd see different artists evolve. Someone take a year off, somebody sitting, happy with their own work, different things. Is there any patterns that you see in artists who successfully evolve?
I think it is openness, like an openness to look at their work with fresh eyes, and openness to other people saying something about their work, just letting it like settle in. So that's a huge part, openness. I think also continuing to develop your skills and techniques, and also like a problem solving ability or a sense of ingenuity. I worked with an artist in Evolve a few Evolves ago, and she teaches. I think she's got 1 day a week. Sometimes she only had half a day a week. And she worked out a process where she could throw, trim, do the whole thing in like 1 day. And so that sort of problem solving nature, I think, is really helps us to sustain these things and to move through the ups and downs of life. Flexibility.
Yes, and you've just reminded me, we teach continuous improvement in business in my other life. But I was talking to an artist the other day and she said that every time she finishes an exhibition, she reflects on what she could do better next time.
Definitely. Well, yeah, and the sort of the self-critique process that we have in Evolve, looking at a work too, is that ability to critique your own work as well, for sure, for sure.
Right. And what about obstacles? Are there some common obstacles your mentees faced?
I would say possibly like not seeing yet, because it's a journey, how they can make their work better, like not seeing the areas yet for improvement. And I think that's why they come to me and come to the community through our sessions we have, through conversations, through critique, through all the writing we do. They can sort of open up the lens wider and see where their work, they can lift up their work more. And it's the same for everyone's work. You're so in it, you can't really see. It's the same for mine. I can't really see the glaring obvious. This needs to change. And I think that's something that is a challenge, but a wonderful challenge.
Yes, and just as you've answered that, I remember in the chat one day a lot of people saying it's lack of self-belief sometimes, or imposter syndrome, that sort of thing can be an obstacle. And what about creating opportunities? You talk about the creating opportunities as part of professional practice. Can you talk us through that?
Yes, I sort of see opportunities in two ways. Like there are existing opportunities, which we see that come through our email and our Instagram all the time for art awards, call outs, residencies, and then opportunities that might like softly be there or not really be spoken about, but they're there that we can work our way towards. And so that might be, for instance, like Can Evolve wants to work with architects and designers. There's not a clear pathway, but she's going to make an introduction to start planting seeds to lead to opportunities. So there could be that. And then there's also things like I just said before about the exhibition that you created. You created that opportunity for the both of you and for the 3 other artists. When I did my first Fresh Eyes course in 2021 during COVID, it was such a powerful experience. And I had the idea, wouldn't it have been great to have an exhibition? And so a few years later, that sort of all came to be, and we had an exhibition of 31 or 33 artists' work. And that was like giving opportunities to 33 other people. So it's, yeah, creative thinking and like moving towards the impulse that you have, because you would have had an impulse about doing this exhibition. You would have an impulse about doing this podcast, and you move towards it. So I think that's the thing. You took action towards it and made it happen.
Yeah.
Oh, it was very nerve-wracking. Don't worry about that.
That's okay though. Yeah, you do it anyway. And this is the thing is to the action that you take. Like the more podcasts in 5 podcast time, you're already so really good at it. You'll be even better. It's the same. It's just taking the action, and that helps soften the disbelief or the imposter syndrome.
Yes. And we've talked about professional practice and how professional you are, and you also teach it in one of your programs. And I know, so setting high standards, and I know you gave me feedback on one of my pieces of work, and I said, oh, well, it's framed already. And then later I reflected, hang on, that's not making exceptional work. And I reworked it and getting it reframed. So can you talk about how you teach that, setting high standards and making exceptional work?
Yeah. How do I teach it? I
And
think
I know,
the
I'm just going to say, I remember the critique is a really great part of that as well. Yeah, go.
Yeah, I think through one-to-one discussions, like then you can get into the nitty-gritty like we did for that, questioning the artist, working out what are the options that they have, what do they really want to deliver, the outcome, but also like through all the courses, the writing, flow writing process of reflection really opens up things that you didn't think or assumptions that you had about your work. It can't do this or it can't do that. And then you mentioned there, Rosemary, is the critique, a group critique that's been a part of the program for a few years now, handled in a really structured, great way. And that allows the artists to see things that they couldn't see before either, potentials for the work. So I think it's a mixed bag of things to
Yes.
just, it's more like opening up the artist or the maker, and then like little light beams of information can come in. Sounds a bit funny, but then the aha moments can come. Oh, I didn't think of that. And then they get really excited about it and run towards it. And I hope that the combination of things combine to create that environment for open thinking and open making.
And I love the flow writing. I just can't believe some of the stuff that comes out that's somewhere deep and comes out in the flow writing. So I always finish those sessions on such a high. I've got one more question for you and then we'll hand over back to Michelle. The slow process, you talk about the slow process and you can see it in your work, beautiful work. Can you talk about how that works?
It's just, I suppose by the method that I've chosen is slow. Although now that I just say this out loud, that could be an assumption and I could like break this, just need to do some flow writing on this. But historically it's been pretty slow. Like I make a mold or a support for the work. That takes a while, fire that. And then I make the material, mix it up, weigh it, make it all plastic on the plaster bat. And then I make templates and then I cut out each layer and then I roll a layer, roll, 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 roll to get really fine. And then I position it to make a hole. So it just has been slow, but I'm going to, change things up a little bit. But that's just been the nature of it. But I sort of liked it. I sort of liked it and hated it at the same time. Because it's so hard to see the progress. But once like a form started, I started to see the form, I would feel really excited, like, ooh, this has potential. But there's some parts of that starting of the process that's really, I can't see how it's going to go. And it's just unsettling feeling because you're putting so much work into it. But yeah, it's been slow, but I'm going to make it a bit faster.
Your artistic evolution, how has your ceramic work evolved over the years? Like, I mean, every artist changes their work as they move forward and their thoughts become clarified in a certain area. How has this evolved for you?
It's probably someone outside looking in and looking at my work for the last 20 years might not look like a huge evolution, but for me, it has slowly evolved in terms of adjusting the materials that I make to either make it melt more, make it melt less, or put different combinations together. My sort of signature form is like a circular form with a center point and many layers coming out, and sort of like disturbing that a little bit and pushing that out, making some bigger pieces and some longer pieces. And having injections of like sort of artist residency experiences where I have to start from scratch and make new materials and what that can give me. But it's sort of slow shifts for me. And yeah, one body of work informs the next, tells me about what's can be possible for the next. But for me, it's slow.
That's beautiful. So, I mean, as we've said, next year you've got 2 exhibitions coming up, and what's keeping you excited and engaged about those upcoming exhibitions, about your work in those upcoming exhibitions?
Well, where I live, I walk up the driveway at 7 minutes up there. I walk up with Pippa, my dog, and then I walk back. And it's in this forest, and I'm seeing all these amazing shapes and forms from trees and rocks and termite mounds and all of that sort of stuff, things intercrossing, intersecting. And I want to take some shapes from there and use them as starting points because I usually create the starting point myself. And so I'm doing it from what I know and how I know to make. But I want to grab something that is not me and use it as a starting point and then build from there and see what that can lead to. So really change it up. And I'm also just looking at the way a form could sit. This comes from Make Exceptional Work stuff, the way a form can sit on the surface and just how I can change that. Doing a lot of hand actions.
No, that's good. And I was actually going to say the Make Exceptional Work has made me look at things like that now too. It opens up doors in your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the first month that we're in, New Ways of Seeing, even just talking about it, you're just more you're zoning in on these things and these things that you keep noticing that you're noticing, and it's saying something to you. I don't know exactly what it's saying to me, all these forms when I walk up there, but I'm just compelled to try it out. And so, yeah, that's really exciting me at the moment.
And have you lay on the ground and photographed them looking upwards yet?
No, I'm going to do
You have
that.
to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, get your
I'm
jeans
going.
dirty.
Not on the termite mound. Not on the termite
No.
mound.
Maybe lay on a piece of canvas and do it so you
Yeah.
don't disturb any termites. But yeah, just because that's what you told us to do, is take it from different angles, and it opens up a whole perspective that you didn't even think of. So I love that. And I can hear in your voice you've maintained that sense of wonder about your practice, which I love. I love hearing. The evolution of the Darling Artist Group, it's grown so much. What is your next steps for that? I know you've talked about the fact you're actually going to be doing some time on your own exhibitions, but how do you see that program itself evolving?
Well, I haven't really told anyone about it, but I see it evolving into, it's currently a 6-month program, but maybe and I do it twice a year. So it's like back to back, which has been great, but it's been a lot. And I'm sort of looking at making it more of a 8-month program, or sort of it sits in the year, starts after the start of the year, ends towards the end, and something where I can bring in some more expert people like I've started to do, as you know, in the current cohort, and bring bring other voices into the mix, because I have areas where I have great experience in, but others I do not. And so I feel that that could make it really even stronger, even more dynamic and more valuable for people. And working on my own coaching as well is something that I want to, continue to improve on, in group sessions, in one-to-one sessions as well, so that I can become even better at that, because I think it's a really important skill. And I'm probably just going to change the shape of how I deliver things so that I can have more time in the studio, but still keep the community growing and there. So it might just be a different way of a different system that I do it in.
And the other side of it, that what have you learnt from your mentees, and how has that changed your approach to your own work?
I learn a hell of a ton, a hell of a ton. I've learned a lot. I'm blown away by the talent, that people have. I'm blown away by how they can go to their edge and they can do the thing that they have never done before. And so many times people come on the call and they'll say, Amy, I put my hand up for that artist talk because you said you have to do it. And it's really scary stuff. And so the courage that people have, and also the resilience, as you know, on the group calls, people will come in and I got knocked back from here, knocked back from there. That doesn't stop them. They reassess it. We could reassess it together, and they keep going. And I think also just how great the people are. And, like on the call, it's just, just their support of other people too, and their passion for their medium and passion for making it better and better and better. That growth they want. They're not okay with it just being okay. And that fully inspires me, because I'm the same.
My last question is community. You talked in the very beginning, your sister's encouragement, your friends' encouragements, people throughout your life that you've known. How much has community played in your actual growth as an artist?
Yeah, it's huge, and I don't think I would be where I am now, without it. From the community at the community centre, to at university and studies, to communities at artist residencies, and then the small communities that pop up with friends and colleagues, to communities through the art gallery, but through the Daring Artists, like it's heaps more community than I ever thought. And I had sort of in the past naturally been on the like just looking in at community, being a bit more of an introverted person, but seeing the benefits of it with the people that I work for, and me too, is just so important, because we often feel like we are alone, but as soon as you get on a call, you realize you're not, and there's something in that just lets you exhale a bit and realize it's okay. And so with the people listening to this, if you're not in a community and you're feeling like you are alone, make one. It could just be another person. Could be online. It could be in person. And it's not just in art community. I've got a yoga community, and then I've had like a writing community, or like a health and wellbeing community, especially like during COVID. And so it's a huge thing.
It's wonderful. Over to you, Rosemary.
Awesome. Thank you. How would you suggest artists can develop that professional attitude and commitment that you talk about?
I would commit to what you're doing, and then do what you say you're going to do, and then deliver above and beyond.
So, what's the best way for artists to connect with you, or to find out about your programs?
The daringartists.com's about the mentoring program. I also have a blog on there with some great articles I'm adding to that's very valuable. And then if you want to see more of my work, amykennedyceramics.com. And I'm also on Instagram, Amy Kennedy Ceramic Artist on Instagram.
Great. And I'm going to be looking out for what's happening next year. So will that be on your website?
There's a bit of personal interest in there, Rosemary. I can hear it.
I'm asking for a friend.
I'm going to start the year next year with fresh eyes, because it's a really great data of the year, and then and share more about the next things. But you're in my inner circle, so you find out first. Yes.
Great. Thanks. Great. Yeah. And Michelle has this signature quirky question that we ask all of our guests. If you could give your past self one superpower to make your life now easier, what would it be?
Do not care so much about what other people think. Yeah. It's just a waste of time.
Oh.
Yeah, because It was so heightened from me all the time, and I still have it now. It's lower, but it just sucks the energy out of you, and
Yeah.
it's just so boring, and you could be looking at using that energy for so many other great things, so. And I think someone said it actually in the call this morning. No one's worrying about us because they're all worried about themselves. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So true.
don't care too much about that, or put it to the side. Don't let it have its grips on you like it had its grips on me for many, many years.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
yeah. I think you're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not alone. And it gets down to imposter syndrome too, because I think that it's something that a lot of people feel, especially in the art world, because even though people aren't critical, you're still putting yourself on a plate when you actually put something out there. No pun intended there.
But also, what a gift to be able to share that with our listeners when we see you as a successful someone who's made it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Amy, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm sure that our listeners are going to get a lot out of this.
We
So
got a
thank
lot.
you. Well, I've got a lot. At the end there, I was nearly in tears. It was
Oh,
beautiful. It was beautiful.
thank you so, so much for inviting me, especially as one of your first guests. I am so happy that you're doing this podcast, and I'm going to be listening to every episode. And you're doing an amazing job, and it's such an important topic of transition, of people moving from one thing to another, and the stories that you're going to be sharing about all the different ways that people do it is going to give
yeah.
people a lot of ideas for themselves and to take ownership of their path forward. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
thank
Nice
you.
summary.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you so much. Hang
We're
on.
the
Love
shift
it.
idiots.
Love it.
Rosemary, that was fantastic. I love Amy Kennedy.
She's amazing. So good. What a great. I can't wait to watch that again.
Yes, yes. And I'm hoping our viewers will feel the same way once they've seen it and watch it a couple of times. Rosemary, what has inspired you this week?
Well, I'm giving a big shout out to Dr. Carl, our Australian science communicator. The reason is he rang me up. He Yes, he rang me up because I sent him one of my books, The Crocheting Scientist, and I was hoping he might endorse it for me or write a little part and I could put it on the cover. However, he can't because if he did that, that would be all he would be doing. But just I was at home one day and the phone rang and it's, "Hi, it's Dr. Carl here." I'm like, that is a quality person for actually picking up the phone. And he said, "Thank you very much for the book." So I was so chuffed. And, there's so much texting and he could have not responded at all. I just thought it was a real quality act. What about you,
Yeah.
Michelle?
Well, this is more exciting than actually inspiring, but I'm getting a sink put in my studio and it's taken me 7 months to get this sink. So it's very exciting. And for the last 4 months, I've been in my studio and I have to lug water. Actually, it's been good because I've actually become a lot more conservative with water. I have a clay trap so that I'm using less water, but I'm still really looking forward to getting my sink.
Oh, that's exciting. And you'll be able to wash our champagne glasses.
Yes, I'm going to have a sink wetting the head celebration. I don't know whether that sounds right, but it will be fun. It will be fun.
That's so
Okay,
good.
so it's coming up to Christmas. We've got one more episode for Christmas. What do you think we should do, Rosemary?
Who would be thinking about what they need to hear just before Christmas? I'm not sure. What are your
Ah,
thoughts?
well, I was thinking New Year planning. Always a good time to start it on your Christmas vacation. And the other one I was thinking about is what do you get an artist for Christmas? Now, we'll leave the excitement of that for the next podcast, but Rosemary and I are going to come up with ideas for you and to give your friends and also things that we'd like if we were going to get Christmas presents. And that'll be on the 17th of December. We will also be then taking a break and we will come back on the 21st of January with a fresh interview for you.
I've just got a quick question for you, Michelle. Are we running this Christmas podcast just so that you can tell Mark what you want?
My husband's already bought my present and I was so happy. So yes, he's a wonderful man and he's bought me a lovely present.
All right. Can't wait to do that.
Okay, bye for now. Thank you so much for listening to Shift Stirrers podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit that follow button so you can get notified whenever we release new content. We'd love to hear from you and feel free to reach out to us at theshiftstirrers@gmail.com, or you can find our individual email addresses and websites in the show notes below. We love questions. You can also connect to us on Instagram at sculptor. If you found value in today's conversation, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could leave us a review or a rating on your podcast platform. It really helps others to discover the show. And if you know someone who will benefit from this episode, please share with them. Until next time, keep stirring the shift. Just a quick disclaimer, Michelle and Rosemary are not experts in any of these discussions today. We present this podcast in the interest of getting you curious to make changes. Thank you.
In the depths of silence, where echoes remain, you were the sunrise, and I was the rain. A collision of souls,